So we are starting a new book today. The book's name is called Water. You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty by Dr. Batman Gileach. We're going to start the book today. You can read this, Shivangla.
Turn on the tap and reap the benefits of one of the greatest health discoveries of all time. Learn the crucial role water plays in these and many other conditions and ailments. Heart disease and stroke. Water is essential to help prevent clogging of arteries in the heart and brain. Infection. Water may increase the efficiency of the immune system to combat infections and cancer cells. Depression. Water helps the body naturally replenish its supply of neurotransmitter serotonin. Sleep disorders. Water is needed for the production of nature's sleep regulator, melatonin. Lack of energy. Water generates electrical and magnetic energy in every body cell, providing a natural power boost. Addiction. Water can help eliminate addictive urges for caffeine, alcohol, and some drugs. Osteoporosis. Water is an aid to strong bone formation.
So many of us don't know, but even our bones have a lot of water content. Okay.
Leukemia and lymphoma. Water normalizes the blood manufacturing systems that can aid in the prevention of many forms of cancer. Attention deficit. A well-hydrated brain is continually energized to imprint new information in its memory banks. Water for health, for healing, for life.
So again, most of us don't realize this. When we go to doctors, they are more focused on our diet. But I think the quality of water and the quantity of water that we are drinking on a regular basis is actually more important than the diet we have, right? Or the food that we are eating. As we go through the book, you will realize what I'm talking about. Page 9.
The dawn of a new medical era. Only if you begin to suffer from a health problem that may eventually kill you will you begin to search high and low for an explanation and solution to your predicament.
So now this is a major problem, right? Instead of preventive processes, we are constantly, after when we are really stuck with something, we've already got the thing, then we look for a cure, right? But prevention is always better than a cure. So basically what he's attempting to say here is that we must start looking before the problem occurs. So we must be forewarned.
Until then, you cannot appreciate what an emotionally draining impact a doctor's visit and the pronouncement of his or her serious findings has on the life and soul of another person. Let us hope you or anyone you care for never confronts such a situation which thousands face daily.
So again, what does this mean, right? When a prognosis is given by a doctor, then it really hits us on the face. Now, till we don't experience it for ourselves, we don't really appreciate what are the benefits of, following processes which are preventive in nature.
The reason we have a healthcare crisis in America today is because many diseases prematurely devastate and kill millions of people. At the same time, the healthcare crisis costs us about $1.2 trillion in 2001, and it is predicted that this cost will increase by 11% every year. It is true that we are scientifically the most advanced nation in the world and spend billions of dollars a year on medical research. If you look at any recently published medical textbooks, however, you will see page upon page of explanation about diseases that kill. Yet, when the authors of these books reach the point of having to shed light on the cause of the disease, they confess etiology unknown. This means most doctors do not know the major cause of major diseases of the human body. Yet, society has given them license to prescribe various treatments that often do not benefit their patients but can slowly and prematurely kill them. The good news is that this license is about to be withdrawn. What you are about to read is new knowledge and represents a new perspective within the science of physiology, not a form of science used by drug manufacturers, but the discipline of science that defines the way living tissues and organs within the body work naturally. This book deals with some important health problems and the cause and natural correction, cure of these problems. When the cause and cure of any health problem becomes clear, the use of excessive language and tongue twisting jargon becomes unnecessary. What you will read here is based on extensive clinical and scientific research. I have researched, studied, and written about the information in this book for more than 22 years, in addition to my medical training, which began in 1950 when I entered St. Mary's Hospital Medical School of London University. The topic I am about to discuss is the physiological ramifications and metabolic complications of chronic unintentional dehydration as the primary cause of many serious diseases. Some say it is the greatest breakthrough in modern medicine.
So again, what are the normal allopathic doctors looking for? They are looking for eradication of the symptom. They're not looking for the cause in most cases, right? What he's talking about here is that most of the diseases that are, that come in front are basically caused by dehydration. And he has actually studied this and actually worked on this and actually cured people just using water. That's it. It's a fantastic story, and I'm sure we're all going to enjoy this reading.
This simple presentation about some of our modern health problems is an introduction to the eventual science and logic-based transformation of medicine all over the world. It is prepared with the immediate shot in the arm needs of society in mind, particularly for the 15 million asthmatic children whose parents urgently need to understand the cause of this disease and its simple, cost-free prevention and potentially life-saving treatment.
So again, very clear, right? That water is a cure for asthma. And most people, of course, he's going to talk about it in the book, but most people don't realize that dehydration is the cause for asthma simply because when we breathe, we are releasing water vapor. And when the body is starved of water, it doesn't want the water vapor to get out because it is a survival mechanism, right? The brain needs water to survive. If the water is not there, the person will die. So it puts pressure on the other organs. It withdraws water from the blood from the other organs to supply the water to the brain. And one of the ways is to curtail the breathing, because of which water vapor is reduced, which is the actual cause of asthma. Okay, so of course he's going to talk about it, but it's simply that if you can increase your water intake, it's one of the best ways in which you can manage asthma.
Chapter 1: Where did modern medicine go wrong? The greatest tragedy in medical history, in my opinion, is the assumption that dry mouth is the only sign of the body's water needs. Based on this mistaken assumption, Modern medicine has made three other confounding mistakes that have cost society dearly. Let us look at these four mistaken assumptions.
So again, normally what we say, if you feel that your mouth is dry, that is the time you drink water. But it is actually the last sign of dehydration or the requirement of water in the body system.
1. The whole structure of modern medicine is built on the pitifully flawed premise that dry mouth is the only sign of dehydration. This false premise is responsible for the lack of understanding about various painful health problems that result in premature death to many millions of people. They suffer because they do not know they are seriously thirsty.
So again, what happens is as we age, the sensation of thirst starts to go down, right? And that's what leads to dehydration in aged people. So being aware that we need to drink water is a very, very important thing in our lives, right? So what he's saying clearly over here is that people do not realize that they are thirsty, which results in many times in serious complications in their physical body system.
Modern science based medicine is structured upon the simple dry mouth mistake that became established many years ago. In 1764, Albrecht von Haller, a German, first compared dry mouth as a sign of thirst. In 1918, Walter Bradford Cannon, an English doctor, supported Haller's views. Since he was an influential person, his views became fashionable and are reflected in accepted scientific literature to this day.
So again, when someone important says something, people tend to accept it, right? Even though the person may be wrong, because that guy has said it, it must be correct. So
Frenchman,
again, when we look at it from the fifth agreement, right? What did the fifth agreement say? Skeptically listen. Don't accept everything. Look at it empirically. Look at it. What is it saying, right? Get a download, work on it, and then accept it. But most of the time, what happens? Someone popular, someone very rich says something, and we accept it as word of law.
Frenchman Moritz Schiff, however, had claimed in 1867 that thirst is a general sensation. It is no more a local sensation than hunger. We know that Haller and Cannon were wrong, but since theirs were the views that took root in the infrastructure of medicine, the same mistake has been passed on from one generation of medical students to another until the present day. This traditional flaw in the scientific understanding of the human body's water regulation altered the path of medicine. Schiff understood the human body better.
So again,
Actually,
what happens is that many times education, right? The textbooks are outdated. Today, when you look at even science in our school books, right, it's totally outdated. What has been discovered is not even in the books. And what we are studying is not valid anymore. But since it takes time for the textbooks to get revived or changed, there's always a backlog. That's why it's so important to look at new stuff. Look, whichever field you are in, always look for something new. Always look for new research. Talk to people in that field. What are they experiencing, so that you can actually keep growing.
this traditional flaw in the scientific understanding of the human body's water regulation altered the path of medicine. Schiff understood the human body better. Actually, dry mouth is not a sign to rely on. The human body uses a different logic. To be able to chew and swallow food and to facilitate and lubricate this function, ample saliva is produced even if the rest of the body is short of water. In any case, water is too important to the body to signal its shortage only through the experience of a dry mouth. The human body has many other sophisticated signals to indicate when it is short of water. The body can suffer from deep dehydration without showing a dry mouth. Dehydration produces severe symptoms, even to the point of causing life threatening crisis. Modern medicine has confused these symptoms of internal, localized droughts and has identified them as different diseases. As a result, toxic medications are prescribed to treat diseases rather than the dehydration.
So what he's saying here is that many of the diseases are actually caused by dehydration. But medical science has said that, okay, this is a symptom and I need to give this drug to treat that particular symptom, not realizing that the cause of that issue is dehydration. So if proper hydration is maintained, the disease will automatically be eradicated or vanish. So you don't need to add extra toxic load into the body system by chemical medication.
Dry mouth is one of the very last indicators of dehydration of the body. By the time dry mouth becomes an indicator of water shortage, many delicate functions of the body have been shut down and prepared for deletion. This is exactly how the aging process is established through a loss of enzyme functions. A dehydrated body loses sophistication and versatility. One example is juvenile diabetes, in which the insulin producing cells of the pancreas are sacrificed as a result of persistent dehydration.
So again, so many processes, right, which are considered not important will be shut down so that other important functions can run. But we don't realize it, right? That's why, again, hydration is extremely, extremely important.
2. The second major mistake in the basic science of medicine is the thinking that water is a simple substance that only dissolves and circulates different things.
Shivangla, we can't hear you now.
Water is not a simple inert substance. It has two primary properties in the body. The first one is its life sustaining properties. The other, more important, role of water is its life giving functions. Modern medicine recognizes only the life sustaining properties of water. That is why chronic unintentional dehydration is ultimately an unrecognized life threatening process. You need to recognize and understand the process to save your health and your life naturally.
So again, water dissolves everything ultimately. And the thinking is that water, because like when we are eating food, it dissolves into water. Blood is nearly 70% or 80% water. That is what all the ingredients that we are eating, the chemicals that we are eating, the nutrients that we are eating get dissolved into the blood system to be circulated around. But no, the water actually sustains life, right? And it also gives life. Like today, if you plant a seed and you put no water, the seed is not going to grow. So it actually gives life also in our body system also.
3. The third serious error in medicine is the premise that the human body can regulate efficiently its water intake throughout the lifespan of the person. As we grow older, we lose our perception of thirst and fail to drink adequately until the plum like cells in vital organs become prune like and can no longer sustain life. We need to recognize the onset of dehydration and its manifestations to prevent the irreversible stages of the process.
So as I mentioned before, as we grow older, the ability to perceive that we are thirsty starts to drop, right? We don't pay enough attention to hydration. And then that's what causes many issues. You'll find that many old people, they start to tend to shrivel up, right? The shriveling up is happening because of dehydration. Okay. If the body is kept hydrated properly, you will find there'll be a glow in the entire skin of the person who's properly hydrated. It won't be prune-like.
The fourth nail in the coffin of present day medicine is the thought that any fluid can replace the water needs of the body. This is a major problem at present. Some of the manufactured beverages in common use do not function in the body like natural water. If you begin to understand the natural reason some plants manufacture caffeine or even cocaine, you will then recognize the problem.
So again, let us say you're having a juice, right? Juice is not water, it is food. The body has to digest the juice, right? So there's a process involved in extracting the water from the juice. But when you have water, it's pure water. The body can absorb it directly and immediately, right? Over here it says reason why some plants manufacture caffeine. The caffeine is manufactured by the plant in order to protect itself. So it is actually a retardant for insect infestation. But we are drinking coffee as a stimulant, right? Now, when you drink the coffee, in fact, when we were in Joe McMonaghan's book, he talks about when people want, when they want to stress you, right? In the sessions, when they wanted to stress you out, they used to make you drink 3 cups of coffee. So coffee is actually a stressor. It is not a downer. It's actually a stressor. It creates stress in our system. And that's what he's saying. The plants actually manufactured it to repel the insect. So it is naturally a stressor when we consume it.
The information in this book is about one of the greatest of all health discoveries in the world because it exposes an important tragedy in medical history. The erroneous assumption that the dry mouth state is the only sign of the body's water needs. Simply put, the new scientific understanding is that chronic unintentional dehydration in the human body can manifest itself in as many ways as we in medicine have invented diseases. We have created an opportunity for the drug industry to thrive and have given birth to the current sick care health system at the expense of people's precious lives and resources. The sick care system survives and thrives when people are continuously sick. This is exactly what is going on now.
So today, the pharmaceutical industry, the hospital industry, etc., cannot survive if people are not sick, right? And that's why this water theory has not caught on, because they won't allow it to catch on, simply because if people start hydrating themselves properly, then the number of people falling sick is going to drop drastically, right? Even today, many times I'm shocked. Like today, when people have water retention, the doctors are telling them not to drink water. But one of the causes, and I hope he's going to talk about it in this book. I don't know if he talked about it in another book, but he clearly states that when the body is fearing a shortage of water in the system, it wants to retain water. That is why water retention takes place. So in fact, instead of lowering the water consumption when water retention is there, people should actually slowly and gently increase the water intake, which allows the body to feel that, yes, I have enough resources, I don't need to retain the water. And then the detoxification or the release of the jammed up water in the system can start taking place. Okay, so this is again something many people are now facing water retention. So this is something that you need to really pay attention to, right? How much water are you consuming and how much you are releasing, right? If you are releasing enough, then you can slowly increase your water intake.
Tragically, the medical breakthrough about dehydration as the origin of most health problems is not reaching the public through the commerce directed health maintenance systems in this country. If it did, it would mean the rapid extinction of these systems. Yet, there is no sane reason why tens of millions in our society should be medicated when all they suffer from is dehydration.
So again, most of the issues that we face can be taken care of by just increasing water intake in a proper manner.
The statements in this introductory chapter are not meant to reflect badly on the dedicated staff employed within the sick care system who daily render compassionate service to the unfortunate sick. They are not to be blamed for the fundamental mistakes in standard treatment protocols in medicine. The blame is directed at the medical professionals in powerful positions and the national health institutes that have the power to correct the problem but have shown reluctance to do so.
So again, when you look at the healthcare system, right? When a person is studying in the medical schools, how much time is spent on nutrition is a question. How much time is spent on water intake? How much time is is spent on sleep regulation? You will find it's hardly there. The entire medical system is geared towards chemical intervention, that how to prevent a symptom, but which chemical will prevent which system, right? And this is what's in the textbook. So now today, a person who studied MBBS and coming out of the education, that is what he has learned. He spent a lot of time. He spent a lot of money learning that, right? Now suddenly he comes out and you tell him, no, this is all bunkum. This is what you need to do. The guy is not going to accept it because he's given his sweat, he's given his blood, he's given his money, resources, everything has been given. Now, how is he going to accept that you're telling him that medication is not the way, water is the way? So naturally, they don't accept it. And naturally, the powers that be also don't want to accept it because, again, they are funded by the pharmaceutical industry.
Mainstream medicine and its fundraising sidekicks will not of their own accord abandon pharmaceutical medicine. Why? They do not want to allow natural solutions to the health problems of society to get clearance and reach the public. This book is designed to upset this self serving trend, which benefits only the commercial healthcare systems in our advanced society to the detriment of the people.
So again, when you see most research papers, right, who is funding that research? You have to actually understand. Because, for example, there's a research done on whether drinking fizzy drinks or carbonated beverages is detrimental to the health of a person. Now, if you see at the background, the guy is doing the research, but who is funding the research? The money for the research is coming from Coca-Cola or maybe coming from Pepsi. Now, the guy is getting his money from there. Do you think that he's going to debunk Coca-Cola or Pepsi? Impossible, because that's where the funding is coming from. So today clearly says that it's fundraising sidekicks. What does this imply, right? The pharmaceutical industry is funding all the research, it's funding all the trials and all those stuff. So how is that? I mean, today the guy who is doing the research is squeamed to find that there is no problem, right? Or squeamed to find the solution that the people who are funding the research want. He's going to look at that. And we've read in so many books through the pandemic, and we constantly talking about, you will notice what? That which you are interested in. So if the researcher is interested in finding out something, that is what he's looking for, then that's what he's going to find. He's not going to find the other thing, right? And he's being funded by these guys. So naturally, he's going to find what they want him to find. That's why it says here, fundraising sidekicks.
It is now crystal clear that the human body has many different ways of showing its general or local water needs. These manifestations of drought in the body have been assumed to be indicators of this or that disease condition. Based on this ignorance and protected and coddled by the pharmaceutical industry, mainstream medicine has labeled the different complications of dehydration as various diseases. On the basis of this erroneous assumption, the trusting American public has to pay every ever increasing healthcare costs with their health and hard earned money.
So again, whatever the symptoms are showing up, a label is created that this symptoms is this disease, right? Having said that, again, the base is most of the time dehydration.
We must understand that persistent dehydration brings about a continuously changing new chemical state in the body. When a new dehydration produced chemical state becomes fully established, it causes many structural changes, even to the genetic blueprints of the body.
So what does this mean, right? Now, let us say that the weather patterns are changing in an environment. So the insects, let's say when they are behaving the way they're behaving, and chameleons, etc., will change according to the requirement of the environment. So maybe when there was lush green forest, an insect or let's say a lizard was green in color, and slowly the dry weather is coming and it's turning into Sahara desert, automatically the skin color of the lizard will turn into brown to merge with the environment, right? So the environment causes changes in the structure of what we are experiencing. So over here, when there is dehydration in the body, the chemical combination of what the cells are experiencing in that environment has changed. So the behavioral pattern of the cells will also change. The genetic composition of the cells will also start to change because the environment is dictating it, right? So genetics and then epigenetics. This is something that Bruce Lipton talks about in his book, Biology of Belief. Maybe we'll read that book also sometime. But there's a shift because of the environmental conditions.
This is why prevention of dehydration is crucial. This is also why childhood asthma is a major health issue with me, as is non-infectious earache in infants. Dehydration to the point of causing asthma in children can ultimately cause genetic damage, autoimmune diseases, and even cancer in their later years.
So again, when the environment has shifted, when the child is young, later on it can definitely produce because the change has already occurred and later on it starts to manifest.
Understanding chronic dehydration will clear the way for the development of an infinitely more people-friendly healthcare system. It will be possible, in my estimation, to have a decidedly healthier and productive nation at 30% of the present healthcare costs. As you see, I am not promoting a money making product. I am only sharing a unique medical insight and the outcome of my many years of research that will help medical professionals and the public understand the basic cause of so many conditions of ill health.
So basically what happened with Dr. Batman Gilich was that he was in Iran, and when the Shah was overthrown, they were put into prison camps, right? Now in the prison camps, there was no medication and he was the only doctor in that particular prison camp. And the only thing that he had to treat people with was water, right? So then he started treating people with water. That's how this entire research came. Now, when he was supposed to be released, he actually pleaded with the authorities to stay in the prison camp so that he could complete his research, right? And then after that, he came out and then he wrote these books. So this, when he's saying over here that it is based on medical research, right? All the research and care and observation that he has made, that is what this entire book is based on.
We are in the 21st century, yet even at this stage of our development, the outward manifestations of regional dehydration have not been understood by us in medicine. We have always looked for a drug solution to throw at a health concern. We have not succeeded at limiting these health concerns. Rather, we have constantly expanded the list and thrown more drugs at them.
So again, drugs make money, right? If someone can get cured with water, it's not going to really serve anyone's purpose, right? So you want to make more drugs to throw at these so-called diseases.
We have truly caused a costly chaos in the name of modern medicine with no end in sight. We now have significant problems that beg urgent solutions. As Albert Einstein observed, the significant problems we have cannot be solved at the same level of thinking with which we created them.
So again, if you are in the soup, right, and the soup has been created by a certain process, a certain case of thinking, if you think you can find a solution with the same thinking, it is literally impossible. You have to step out of the box, right? That's what we are talking about, going into higher states of consciousness, going into altered states of consciousness, which allow us to download information, allow us to get ideas which are out of the box because we are stepping out of the soup, right? So no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness in which it was created. This is something that Albert Einstein said, and I think I totally agree with it.
We obviously need a new approach to medical science to solve our health problems. The solution to the present human made and drug industry protected health problems of society can only be physiology based. Understanding the molecular physiology of dehydration will restructure the future practice of clinical medicine. It will cause a fundamental paradigm change in the science of medicine.
So again, a paradigm shift is when something from out of the box suddenly pops into vogue and it shifts the way that people are thinking.
By showing the way to enhance the natural healing powers of the body within the discipline of physiology, the pharmaceutical approach to our present health problems will be completely replaced. The primary focus in medicine will become disease prevention rather than its protracted, cost intensive, and invasive treatment protocols.
So again, the focus needs to be, it's still not happened, to be frank. The focus needs to be on prevention rather than on cure.
The new level of thinking in medicine. What is a paradigm and how can it be changed in clinical medicine? A paradigm is the basic infrastructural information, assumption, or understanding on which knowledge within a discipline of thought develops.
So again, it's the basis, it's the rationale for the way that we are living or the way that we are operating in a particular scenario, right? It's built up over a period of time, but that paradigm becomes the norm. It's the norm, right?
As an example, based on the fundamental understanding that planet Earth is a sphere, all geographic maps and models reflect the roundness of Earth. This understanding is the basic paradigm to the design of all geographic maps. The dramatic changes produced by the realization that Earth is not flat, as originally perceived, revolutionize the knowledge we now possess about the structure of the universe.
So again, there was a paradigm at one time that the earth was flat. When Galileo said, though it's not flat, he was orchestrated. He was literally killed. Money nearly got killed, right? I don't know if he was killed or not, but he was really blasted off, right? But then what happened? There was a paradigm shift. They came to understand because of various experiments that yes, the world is round. It is not flat. And when that shift took place, now how many people think that the earth is still flat? Maybe a few people still think that way, but most of the people have shifted the paradigm from a flat earth into a round earth.
When a paradigm leads a discipline of thought towards a dead end, as in the case of a flat earth, for those who can stand back and impartially reassess the infrastructure of knowledge, often a new paradigm emerges. All it takes is a thought triggering association or observation.
So again, paradigm shifts normally take place with certain associations and shifts in the way that you're looking at things. How is it occurring to us? When that shift takes place, a paradigm shift starts to take place. This is something that when we are looking at even the grid, right, the resilience grid, what are we talking about? If we can observe where we are operating from, we can create a paradigm shift in our thinking process from the left side of the grid to the right side of the grid. It's all, the situation may be totally the same, but you can shift the paradigm that you're operating from to shift from the left to the right.
All it takes is a thought triggering association or observation. When a valid paradigm that is basic to a major discipline of thought emerges, it illuminates the path to a vast new domain of knowledge, like a flash of lightning that reveals all in the darkness of night. A new paradigm removes restrictions and barriers and makes future progress within a discipline of thought possible.
So whenever new paradigm comes, there are various shifts in consciousness, in awareness, in how situations occur to us. That automatically starts to happen because you start perceiving things in a totally different manner.
A new paradigm is more easily born when there is a specific need and a purpose to find a solution. A solution does not establish significance unless a definite need to the emerging solution is also recognized. The following story may help explain this thought.
So again, if you want a change to occur, there has to be a requirement for the change. Otherwise, no one's going to pay attention to the new paradigm, right? So many times people say he was there before his time. Now, what does that mean? That this change was required, but he put it out before it was required, right? So naturally, no one paid attention to that particular change. So the change has to come at the right time. Only then it is acknowledged, right? There has to be a need for the change.
Sir Alexander Fleming was the Nobel laureate recognized to have discovered penicillin. He was a Scottish scientist who worked at the Wright Fleming Institute of St. Mary's Hospital Medical School of London University when I was a medical student there in the 1950s. Many medical students have an emotional urge to become discoverers. I was no exception. Since childhood, I had been driven to study medicine and become someone who could positively affect the lives of people who fell sick. In the introductory bacteriology course, students were divided into small groups and assigned to different tutors. Luck placed me in this tutorial group assigned to Sir Alexander. He was a refined and humble man. At the end of the tutorial, I gathered enough courage to ask him a question, the answer to which has deeply influenced me ever since. I asked him, Sir Alexander, is there a special way to become a discoverer in medicine? He looked at me and pondered my naive question. After a pause, in a very refined Scottish brogue, he replied, need and purpose. He explained that with the increasing introduction of different surgical treatment procedures into medical practice, there was an ever increasing rate of fatal bacterial complications. To find an agent that would stop bacterial infections in the human body became a most urgent need that established a purpose and resolve for those in bacterial research. Need was the mother of penicillin's discovery, and purpose the impetus of its development for human application.
So again, need and purpose. What is it that you are discovering it for? What is the intent? And whether there is a need or not for that particular discovery to manifest. For example, look at it in the internet also. How many of us knew about Zoom before the pandemic? And now if you talk to anyone, literally speaking, they know Zoom. Why? Because it was the need of the hour. It was required. So it's fulfilled a particular purpose. Before that, only corporates were using this process. Now every Tom, Dick, and Harry is using the process. Every student is also using the process. So you can understand it was the need of the hour and it had a purpose.
The birth of a new scientific truth in medicine. History tells us that every so often, through basic discoveries of the applied techniques of nature, important leaps of progress have become possible. Humankind, because of these fortuitous happenstances and flashes of insight, have unraveled many of the secrets employed in its creation.
So again, basically what happens is that whenever there's a highly stressful time, right, that is when most discoveries take place. So there's this book by Osho called Krishna. In that he talks the maximum growth takes place during war. Whenever there is war, maximum discoveries and innovations start taking place because you need to protect yourself, right? So how do you protect yourself? You're making new things. So many of the discoveries which we are using today was actually made for war, but now the commercial applications are taking place.
The birth of a new scientific truth in medicine. History tells us that every so often, through basic discoveries of the applied techniques of nature, important leaps of progress have become possible. Humankind, because of these fortuitous happenstances and flashes of insight, have unraveled many of the secrets employed in its creation. One such happenstance seems to have revealed itself in 1979. I had become a political prisoner of Islamic revolutionaries and was being held in the Iranian prison of Evin. While facing the possibility of execution, I discovered one late night that 2 glasses of water could relieve even the severest abdominal pain associated with peptic ulcer disease.
So again, it was just a happening, right? Someone was having a stomach ache. He must have made him drink 2 glasses of water and the pain disappeared.
A prisoner needed medication for his excruciating ulcer pain, which had him doubled up and unable to walk by himself. 2 friends were supporting him. The guards had not responded to his repeated pleas to be taken to the prison hospital. It was after 11 at night when he was brought to me. I was a prisoner myself and had no medication to give the man, who was truly in agony. I explained to him that I had no medicine to give him. His face showed even more pain than before. Instead of medication, I gave him 2 glasses of water. Within minutes, his ulcer pain became less severe. In 8 minutes, it disappeared completely. This confirmed for me the abdominal pain relieving effect of water in a disease condition.
So he just discovered it accidentally.
I had relieved my own abdominal pain with water during a period of solitary confinement when I was refused food for several days. I encouraged one after another of the inmates who had the same classic pain to take water in place of medications that were sometimes available. During the ensuing 2.5 years of my imprisonment, I successfully treated well over 3,000 stress induced peptic ulcer disease cases with tap water only. It became obvious to me that these people were really and only thirsty. They were presenting their dehydration in the form of a painful crisis situation that we in the medical profession had labeled a disease condition.
So again, basically, if he drank water and the problem got sorted out, then the problem was being created due to dehydration.
As a last defense at my trial, about 15 months into my imprisonment, I presented a scientific article to be released for publication. I told the judge that even if he had not had me shot, to please not lose the information. It is the greatest medical discovery in history, I said. By then, I had already treated a few hundred fellow prisoners in the confined prison block where I was housed. The judge later came to me and said, "You have made a tremendous discovery. I wish you luck in the future." That was the first indication that I had a future and could continue my work.
So the judge saying that means that he is not going to be shot.
As acknowledgement of my discovery, I was not executed but given a 3-year sentence. My life was spared because of what I had discovered in the prison. All my personal assets, however, were confiscated. After 23 months, the prison warden told me the authorities had discovered I was not the bad person they had been led to believe, and they were considering an early release for me. I thanked him, but said I wanted to stay on in prison a while longer. I was in the middle of a clinical observations on the effect of water as a treatment of various stress-induced health problems, including bleeding peptic ulcer conditions. I explained to him that as a sort of stress laboratory, Evan was unique. Needless to say, the warden was surprised. He thought he was doing me a great favor by wanting to release me before the end of my sentence. He agreed that my work was important, however, and that I should be given the opportunity to complete what I was doing. I had for some time believed that my coming to prison had not been a chance event. I was destined to make my discovery that the human body has sophisticated crisis calls for water when it is stressed and becomes dehydrated.
So whenever we are stressed, right, the body pulls in the water, right, because it wants to conserve the resource. And water is a very precious resource as far as the body is concerned.
I stayed in prison an additional 4 months and reached certain clinical conclusions that now needed scientific explanations. After 2 years and 7 months of imprisonment, I was released with an official acclaim for my discovery. During my prison time, I gained much new understanding about the physiological effects of water and its relationship to many disease conditions. It all started with abdominal pain. I published the first announcement of my discovery in the Iranian Medical Association journal, which I was still while I was still in prison. A translation of the article was sent to America and was eventually restructured for publication as a guest editorial in the Journal of Clinical Gastroenterology in June 1983. Should we end here?
No.
The steps in shaping present-day medicine. The explanations that follow are based on clinical observations made in one of the worst stress laboratories in the world. These observations have given birth to a new physiology-based explanation of how diseases of the body occur. My findings have been presented at several international gatherings of scientists. Detailed scientific explanations that support my findings have also been published. It does not require a detailed knowledge of science to understand that water should be used to prevent and cure certain dehydration-produced disease conditions. Nor does the use of water as a medicine require Food and Drug Administration (FDA) approval.
Right. So no FDA approval required.
Water is the main source of life, and everyone knows about it. Still, there is shameful ignorance about the health dangers we expose our bodies to when we do not drink enough water. Our saving grace is that the human body understands the role of water in maintaining its physiological and physical well being, even though mainstream medicine does not. It seems we doctors have not been well informed about the different functional relationships of water in the human body. We have been caught in a most embarrassing situation. We do not yet know when the human body is truly thirsty. We do not understand what happens if the body does not receive adequate water on a regular basis.
So hardly any research has been done on it. Basically, if because water is free, there is no money to be made out of it, right? So no one really funded any research.
The current practice of clinical medicine is based on the application of pharmacological chemistry to the human body. At medical schools, more than 600 teaching hours are allocated to the use of pharmaceutical products. Only a few hours are allocated to instructions on diet and food.
So again, diet and food is more important than medicine or chemical medicine, but you can see the difference.
It seems that in most disease conditions, medical educators are trying to force the test tube understanding of chemistry into the human body.
So inserting chemicals into the body rather than understanding how the body is working.
The trouble is, pharmaceutical or chemical products do not cure most disease conditions, nor are most of the products safe for long term use. They only temporarily mask and silence the outward manifestations of the problem.
So they are masking the symptoms.
No matter how seemingly unscientific, sophisticated, and appealing the justifications for the use of these chemical products might seem, they often do not remove the medical problem, except for the use of antibiotics in infections. People with hypertension who begin treatment with diuretics or other chemicals are not cured. They are told they must continue the treatment for the rest of their lives.
So again, BP cannot be cured, right? One of the best cures for blood pressure is water, because blood pressure is caused due to dehydration. It's lack of water which actually causes the blood pressure.
They are told they must continue the treatment for the rest of their lives. They often need to supplement the diuretic and use other types of medication at the same time.
So again, what happens, right? You're given one medication and you're given another medication to treat the side effect of that medication. And then you're given another medicine to treat the side effects of the second medication, and so on and so forth. So at the same time, you'll be having 3 or 4 medications for one particular disease or so-called disease.
People with rheumatoid arthritis are not permanently cured by any of the many analgesics on the market. They have to use analgesic medications for the rest of their pain-filled lives. No diabetic is cured. No person with myasthenia gravis is cured. No person with muscular dystrophy is cured. However, is it possible that despite extensive research, no cure for any one of the prevalent conditions such as heartburn, dyspepsia, back pain, rheumatoid arthritis, migraine, or asthma has been found? Dehydration eventually causes loss of some functions and produces damage pathologically. The various signals or symptoms produced during severe and lasting dehydration have been interpreted by doctors as various disease conditions of unknown origin. The signal, however, is actually for water shortage, and the local damage is because of water shortage, because doctors don't recognize chronic dehydration as the original cause. The disease conditions receive all sorts of explanations and labels, and all of them are said to have an unknown cause.
So most of the diseases which are there, people really don't know why they happen.
This is the basic mistake that has distorted the truth in medicine and devastated people needing professional advice and guidance for their health issues. This is the crack through which all past research on the origin of some disease conditions has fallen.
So again, there's a crack over there through which all these conditions have naturally fallen through. If people paid attention, then this would not have happened. We can stop here. Anyone, anything to say?